Jai Hind everyone. In this video, we are going to solve question number 5 of chapter 6 of class as a basis of all computation. Okay, so let's head to the question. The question is we have to define a class telephone having the description given below. So our class name will be telephone and our class will have data members, that is PRV and PRE. Both are of type integer and they will store PRV means previous meter reading and PRE means present meter reading. Okay, and then we have one call variable which will of type int and it will store the calls made by the user. And how we will calculate the calls made by the user, they have given one hint that do just PRE minus PRV. Okay, so that's it. After that we have to describe one name. Okay, it will be of type string and as guessed it will store the name of the customer. Okay, after that we have amount amt. Okay, so we will name a variable amt of type double and it will store the amount. Okay, what that amount is will get clear as we read more. Okay, so next variable will be total and it is of type double and it will store the total amount to be paid. Okay, so this is it. I think there is more to this question. Let's scroll. uh, yeah. Apart from that, our question has method members. Okay, so first one is named input and it will return nothing and it will take also nothing but asks input from the user to store previous reading, present reading and name of the customer. Okay, and then we have cal method. It will also accept nothing and it will return nothing but it will calculate the amount and total amount to be paid by the customer. Okay, then we have display method. Display method will take nothing and will return nothing but display method will display the name of the customer, calls made, amount and total amount to be paid. Okay, and now they have given a chart below. Okay, so this chart is what? Write a program to compute the monthly bill to be paid according to the given condition. Okay, so what we have to calculate? We have to calculate the monthly bill. Okay, and see, if you notice here, every consumer have to pay rupees 180 per month for availing the service. Means it is like basic charge. Okay, so if you don't do any call, if you do zero calls, then also you have to pay rupees 180 and after rupees 180 you have to pay for the calls you have done. Okay, so what is the tariff for the calls you have made? Up to 100 calls you have to pay no charge. Okay, no charge means not zero. No charge means zero plus this 180 rupees, which is basic monthly charge. Okay, for next 100 call, like say somebody has called 150, then what you have to do? For the next 100 calls you have to do 90 paisa per calls. Means first 100 is free, then 150 minus 100, that is 50. For 50 you have to pay 90 paisa per call. For each call you have to pay 90 paisa. After that, for the next 200 calls you have to pay 80 paisa per calls, and for next 400 calls you have to pay 70 paisa per calls. Now let's make some test cases that we will try after we write the program. Okay, and try to understand the program. So let's suppose case number 1. Let me change the nib color, so I'll come back to red. So case 1, what will happen is, say you did 90 calls only, 9090 calls. Okay, so what your AMT will be? Your AMT will be 0 because this number of calls is less than 100 and that's why your amount that you have to pay is 0. But total amount, I don't remember the name of it, so I'll just browse to see what's the variable name. Total. Okay, so in total you have to, so total will be 180 rupees, which was the basic charge. See, 180 rupees was the basic charge that you have to pay. Okay, but say take a second case where somebody does 190 calls. Okay, 190 calls means it is greater than 100. So what will happen is, for first 100 calls it is free, but 190 minus 100, okay, which is what, 90. For 90 calls you have to pay 90 paisa per call. See here, 90 paisa per call. Okay, so you have to multiply 0.9 to it. So 9 nines are 81, so you will have to pay 81 rupees. So your AMT, that is charge for the call you have done, is 81 rupees. But this is not the only thing that you have to pay. You have to pay monthly charge also. So your total will come down to 180 plus 81, which will be what, 161 rupees. Oh no, 261 rupees then. Okay, let's take a third case. Okay, third case is what? Let's go back to the chart that we have for the next 200 calls. So 200 plus 200 is 400, less than 400. Take any number. Say you have taken 360 calls. Say somebody made 360 calls. So what will happen? For the first 100 calls, the charge is 0. For next 100 call, the charge is zero point 0.9 paisa, zero point 0.9 rupees per call. That is 0.9 into 100 is what, 90 rupees. That's so how many calls you have covered? You have covered 100 calls, plus you have covered 100 calls. Now what's left? Subtract 200 from it. If you subtract 200 from this, that is 360 minus 200, you will get 160. 160 calls is left, and for 160 calls, what the charge you have to pay? 80 paisa per call, that is 0.8. Okay, so now 16 8 ja 128. Okay, so what you have to pay is, you have to pay 128 rupees here. Okay, so what's the charge that you have to pay? You have to pay 90 rupees plus 120 rupees. This is what you will store in AMT. This is the charges for the call you have done, but total will be what? Total will be your basic, which is 120 rupees plus this. So 92 is just add it quickly, 90 plus 128. Okay, so I'll use calculator here, फटाफट से. So I'll just put 90, then I'll put plus 1 2 and then 8, then I'll put 180, which was the basic charge, and if I do that, I'll get 398. Okay, so I'll get I think it was 398. Okay, so I'll get 390 rupees as the total amount. Okay, so this was the third scenario that can happen. There is one more scenario. Okay, so suppose somebody does more than 400 calls. What is more than 400 per 100? 200, 200 plus 200, 400, and 400 for 400, 800 calls. Okay, so say somebody does more than 400 calls now for the next 200 calls. Okay, so this was up to 400, but after 400, say somebody does more than 400 calls, say somebody does 450 calls. Okay, so this is it, not 800. See, this was for up to 100 calls. Okay, this was for if somebody does more than 100 but less than 200, so this is the limit. This was for somebody does more than 200 but less than 400. This is if somebody does more than 400. Okay, so this is the categorization that is here. So if somebody does more than 400, we have the structure here. So what will happen? For 100 calls he have to pay 0. After 100, next 100 call he have to pay 90 rupees. For the next 200 call he have to pay 8 in 0.8 into 200, 8 to the 16, so it will become 160 rupees. Okay, and then what's left? 200 plus 100, 300, and 100 plus 100 is 300 plus 100 is 400. So what you will do is, you will subtract 400 from the total calls you have done. Okay, so my bad, let me correct it. Okay, so I'll write 400 here, and you will get what, 50 calls, and for this 50 call you have to pay 0.7, like 70 paisa. How do I know? I saw the chat, 70 paisa per call. So this is 7 5s are 35, so it is 35 rupees. So your AMT will be, let's calculate fatafat se. So I'll do CE and then I'll type 90, okay, 0 take, yes, plus I'll type 160 plus, so 90 is done, 160 is done, then 35. Okay, so this is what you will store here. So so your this will be 285 rupees. AMT will be what, 285, and after that you will have total. And what will be the total? Total will be 180, which was the basic charge, plus 285 that you have done for calls. So 180, let's fatafat say add 285 plus 180. Okay, so our total will be 465. So I'll quickly write here 465 rupees. So we have done 4 cases that will happen. After that, let's head to our code. Okay, so class name is what, telephone. So I must have written telephone class. Here it is. So I have written a telephone class, and I have already written scanner statement here, which will be used to take input from the user. Okay, and now just like they said, I have done a private here. No need to write private. Okay, just write int prb. I was doing something else at that time. So I have described prb and pre of type int. Then I have described call of type int. You don't need to write public here. So int call, and then you have string name. Okay, these are all written in the question. Okay, then these two variables of double, AMT will store the amount that you have to pay for the calls you have done, and total will be the basic charge plus the charges for your call. Okay, first method, input. Okay, so it will not take anything, see it's empty, and it will not return anything, void. Okay, a scanner class is object, and then I have taken input of what, name of customer, then previous reading. In fact, I'll make it more descriptive, previous reading of meter. Okay, and I have stored in PRV, previous. Okay, then current reading of meter, and better will be present, not current, present. Okay, so present reading of meter I have stored in PRE. Okay, so this way we have taken input from the user. After our input is done, we have another method, cal, which is used for what, calculation. Okay, first variable call is filled by PRE minus PRV. How do I know that? See in the question, they have only tell that present reading minus previous reading is equals to call. Okay, number of calls that you have done. So we have done that. After that, I have written the if loop according to the table that they have given. Okay, so first one is, if your call is less than or equal to 100, you have to pay no charges. That's why AMT equals to 0. Then if you call your greater than 100 but less than 200, then what you have to do, you have to pay 90 paisa per calls for the calls greater than 100. Say somebody does 150, so he have to pay for 50 calls. Okay, 100 is free, first 100 is free. After that, if your call is greater than 200 but less than equals to 400, say 360, so what you have to do, you have to first see what I have done. I have written AMT I have written AMT plus equals to 90. Okay, so what will happen is, AMT was first 0. Let me see if it's 0 or not. It's not 0. I'll do it 0. Okay, I'll write 0 0.0 because it's double. So what will happen is, AMT was 0 and now we have added 90 into it. Why 90 has been added? Because for the next 100 calls you have to pay 90 paisa per calls, and 90 paise into 100 is 90 rupees. So 90 rupees added. Then what you have done, for the next 200 calls you have to pay 80 paisa per calls. So call minus 200 into 0.80. Okay, next what you have done, I have written the next condition. Okay, so if your call is greater than 400 and I have written here call is less than equals to 800, I don't think it's required, because your chart says for the more than 400 calls, because there is no limit, somebody can do more than 800 calls. Okay, so I'll just correct it, we don't need the second one. Okay, so if you do more than 400 call, this is what you have to pay. For the next 100 call, you have to pay 90 rupees. For the next 200 call, you have to pay 200 into 80 paisa, that is 160 rupees. And after that, you have to pay 70 paisa per call. So call minus 400 into 70 paisas. And then after these if loops are done, after this check is done, what I have done is, see, I have written total equals to 180 plus AMT. AMT is what? The charge that you have calculated for the calls made by the user. And this 180 is what? 180 is the service charge for monthly service charge. Say 180 per month as monthly rent for availing the service. Okay, so this is for your service. After that, this display method is pretty easy. I have written in this way. I don't think you have to write it. Oh, you have to write it like this. They have given the format of output. So what I have done, I have just copied this thing from here to here, just as it is ditto. Okay, and after that I have given a backslash t, which is tab, 4 spaces at once. Okay, then I have written the next thing that they have done. So they have written calls made, C is capital, M is small. I'll do it. So see, calls made, I'll make this C capital, calls made. Then there is amount to be paid after backslash, amount A is capital, so I'll make it capital. Okay, try to write your program as they have given the question. Okay, next we have stored the name of the customer in the name variable, so I have displayed that. After that, plus in double inverted comma, I have written backslash t for a tab. After that, I have given call, and then after that I have given 2 backslash t. You can give 1 backslash t also, that's also fine. Since the uh, name of the customer was large but calls made is small, so it comes very idle. So what the problem is with backslash t? After that, our code design is done. After writing the display method, now we will write main method, which is public static void main method, to run our code. I'll first of all make one object of our class telephone. So I have written telephone, my object name is my phone, and this is the constructor. Okay, after that I have called the 3 methods that we have defined one by one. First of all, I have called input method, then I have called coil method to calculate the charges, the amount and total, and then I have called invoke display method to display the details of the customer and the charges that he have to pay. Okay, let's compile it. So compile, and first of all let me show what happens if I do it like this. So if I give only 1 backslash t and compile, it's okay only. And now I'll run it. Okay, so this is your telephone. I'll write this. I'll say, she's saying please enter the name of the customer. I'll write Hershey classes at its name. So it took, please enter the previous reading of the meter. So let's suppose my previous reading is let's see what our first calculation was. Our first calculation was of 90, so I'll write previous reading as 190 and next reading as 100. Okay, so I have done one mistake. 90 plus 90 is 280, so I'll write here 280. So see, name of customer, my name, then the calls made is here, and you can see these two have shrunken, but they are correct. Calls made is 90 and amount to be paid is 180, which is just the monthly charge and no extra charge. For 100 calls you are free. So I'll do some changes in the code to make it look better. And what are those changes? I will just put 2 backslash t's here, so it will make our code more readable. Okay, so I'll make backslash t and compile. For the next test, what we have to do, we have to do 190 calls, right? So I'll give present reading as 190 and previous reading as 0. Okay, so it will do. So I wrote this and then I enter my name. So my name is Hershey classes. After that, please enter previous reading. Suppose my previous reading was 0, I just purchased it. And please enter the present reading. I'll enter as 190. Okay, so 190. See, now it is displaying correct, so that's why I have to give 2 \t for first 4 spaces and then for next 4 spaces. So name of the customer, ICSE Classes. Calls made 190, amount to be paid 261. Let's see what was the R calculation said. So it said 261 for 190 calls. How? I just explained. Okay, let's try the next scenario. So what I'll do, I'll go there, I'll run the main method. Name of the customer, let's write my name. Okay, so my name Arshikesh, and then please enter the previous reading of the meter. I say previous reading 0, I just purchased it. Then please enter the present reading of the meter. So how much I have to do? I have to do 360 calls, so I'll write here 360 calls I have done. Okay, so see, name of the customer, my name, calls made 360, and amount to be paid is 398. Let's see what's our calculation said. 398 rupees, right? Let's try next test. So I'll go here, I'll write void main, I'll go okay, and then I'll enter my name Harshikesh. Okay, okay. Previous reading, say I just bought it, so 20 reading it was done, 20. And then what is that we have to input? 450 calls we have to do, right? So I'll give here 470. So 470 total calls made 450. How it got? 470 minus 20. PRE minus PRV, that's the call made, correct? And then amount to be paid is 465 rupees. Let's see what our calculation said. 465. So our code is working as expected. So this way you can write the code. If you have any better approach for this question, please do comment, and thank you so much.